Hi, I'm Jimmy Butler, and welcome to the Agile Digest, where we have right-sized topics covered in just minutes. Today's topic is sustainable pace. What's that? It's about 5 minutes, so enjoy. So let's take a minute and describe what sustainable pace is. It is one of the 12 Agile principles, which has the premise to maintain a pace that's constant and sustainable across the organization indefinitely. So it's unique to each team. It cannot be set by management. It may increase over time, but that's with team-driven efficiencies, and it is the best metric for future output prediction. It's the pace at which the team can constantly work at without great variation. But here's the common trap. The organization might say, team, go do Agile, and here's your fixed scope and fixed deadline. Now stick to the plan. And this Dilbert cartoon really brings that to light, because he's talking about all the benefits of Agile, and then his boss says, that's great, but yeah, here's your fixed deadline, fixed scope, and all that. And so the common trap organizations have when they want to go to Agile, they hold on to the old school way of doing things. So why did I call it the old school approach? Well, traditionally, projects have fixed scope and fixed deadlines, and we have this plan we have to march to. And so in order to do everything we said in the time we said we were going to do it, sometimes it requires us to work overtime or to add a lot of people to it, and we create a work environment and a pace that we wouldn't necessarily do every single day indefinitely. And so sticking to this plan many times requires working overtime, and working overtime for a long period has negative long-term effects. So in this graph, it shows that short-term, sure, working some overtime is going to help the team catch up and increase its productivity, but it's not sustainable. It sharply declines in productivity, and after a while becomes less productive if the overtime pace is maintained. And you've heard the phrase, steady wins the race. The same thing here is with the team. If they work a sustainable pace, they're happier, they're less stressed out, the quality's increased, and so what we're after is a sustainable pace. I think the bigger question is, why do teams hold on to this fixed scope combined with fixed deadlines, marching toward being on time mentality if they truly want to go Agile? So you've seen the typical triangle for waterfall traditional projects where you have scope, time, and cost, and scope being the features here. And you define a bunch of features up front, and then you determine how much time and how much money it's going to take to do those features, and then it all basically gets locked in, and that's your plan, and you're marching toward being on time, doing what you said in the time you said, and you do whatever it takes to make sure all that happens. But with Agile, we turn that triangle upside down, where we do fix our time and we do fix our cost because we're working with iterations and sprints, and any deadline works, but we've got to leave the features, the scope, variable so that the team, through their sustainable pace, gets as much of the high-value work done as possible in that time box. And so when we flip it up on its head, we got to see that we've got to let go of fixing our scope so that the team learns how to develop its own sustainable pace and can get done as much work as it possibly can within the constraints it has working for it. So that leads to the idea then that sustainable pace dictates. And so we got to change how we think about measuring success. We have to let go of the traditional on-time concept that we must do everything we said in the time we said, because that's forcing us to do things that aren't sustainable. And that the team's sustainable pace needs to dictate how much work can be completed, and then we can track what that sustainable pace will produce through a couple of ways. We can use velocity, and we've had a digest on what velocity is and how to use that, as well as cumulative flow diagrams. And so with velocity, for example, we can track how many story points on average the team does each month. And then based on knowing what that average is, we can compare that to what's left in the backlog, and we can do some kind of prediction for how long it's going to take to burn through the backlog and when we think we might be able to get done. But again, it's the team's sustainable pace that dictates when we can get that done. Putting some other arbitrary deadline on that isn't going to make the quality any better and isn't going to make the team work any better. We have to work with what is reality. And a cumulative flow diagram is just another way, without necessarily using story points or velocity, to show based on what the team's actually doing and what its actual pace is, we can project out the timeline to when we'll burn through that backlog. And so, again, sustainable pace has to dictate our timelines and has to dictate what we're going to accomplish in the time we can, because it's based on the team's actual reality and what they're actually doing. Well, that concludes this digest. I always welcome your feedback, so please email me at the email address on the screen. Thank you.